But back to the seaside, but a different location now. This is Sidmouth, which is along the same patch of coast in Devon from Budleigh Salterton. And this one was done just as a pen sketch on site. So just did it in black and white and just captured the outlines of the cliffs and the rocky formations we've got here, which have been put in place to stop the beach washing away. A house, a couple of figures on the rocks, a figure in silhouette in the foreground. And again, I've hopefully captured some of that glass-like reflection you get from the wet sand. And then I decided to add a ghostly belted Galloway, just painted without any outline work. And I've deliberately kept, just like I did with the Welsh mountain sheep in the first painting I showed you, I've kept this animal transparent, so there's nothing painted at all for the white stripe around the midriff. You can just see the sandy beach through the animal. Here's another one, also at Sidmouth, same location on the beach, just looking in the opposite direction. And again, done with the Unipin marker. There were 3 people. It was kind of a chilly autumn day. One person was actually still eating an ice cream despite this, but the others were sat on the beach having hot coffee or tea. So I thought that was a nice little scene. And then having depicted that scene with the figures and the beach, I thought, well, I'll just add a few belties, couple clambering across the rocks, and one in the shallows of the water. Oh, and notice I've just added a little colour selectively here. So the majority of the picture is black and white, but by picking out the 3 main characters in colour and some of the foreground pebbles, then that tends to draw your eye to that. That's my hope anyway, that you first look at the figures, and then because the belties are in black and white, initially the background is hopefully just incidental. But then when you look at the picture a little bit longer, perhaps you think, oh, hang on, there's a belty there. Hang on, there's another one. So it adds a little surreal twist to a fairly conventional sketch. So another fun one here. Here I added a big purplishly blue wash to the background, and then came in with some wet and wet bluer washes, but taking care to, as I move down the paper, include these light blue, harder edged brush strokes on top of the pure white of the paper. Then a bit of purple for the shadow area in the breaking wave, and then just a few brush marks dabbed on for the indication of some pebbles. So I let that background dry, and then I kind of thought, okay, what do I want to do here? Well, I had this weird cauliflower mark. You can see here, it's almost a leaf shape or a cave shape. And I thought, well, I'll place a belty almost as if it's coming out of that, as if it's some kind of portal perhaps, or we don't need to analyze it too much. It's all of the, some of these paintings are meant to be almost dreamlike, really, where you're not meant to question too deeply the logic behind them, but hopefully they create some kind of emotion. And I thought, well, I'll go with a pure orange belty this time. Again, I've done an almost completely transparent midriff. You can see the outline of the animal is not painted at all there, but I've added a few textural marks on the stripe, and then a few indications of the reflections in the water. And then returning to the theme I've been working on and off for a few months now, having some men in suits in the water or accompanying these animals. And the guy on the left is fairly conventional, painted in a fairly loose way, just leaning to the side, and again, he's reflected in the water. But for the chap on the right, I actually had a bit of an awkward mark from the initial wash, where you can see the top of that umbrella, that kind of little spiky bit coming out of the umbrella. And I thought, well, how can I kind of deal with that? So I decided to create this next guy holding a multicolored parasol, because you see those at the beach at Budleigh quite often. Obviously people shelter under them from the sun. And I thought, okay, well, this guy in a suit can be holding that parasol over his head. But again, we need not worry too much why this scene is happening. We just kind of go with the flow. Now, this is perhaps one of my favorite recent paintings. I mean, it's not perhaps all that surreal, but I wanted to include it because I started to sketch this one on the same day as the previous painting that I just showed you, and in more or less the same location. We were sat up nearer the cliffs at Budley, looking out across the water. And there were some boats moored up here. So I drew this one using the Unipin marker. Then there's another boat over here wrapped in tarpaulin. I drew that as well. Indicated some of the pebbles. There was a guy just over the beach at Budley is pebble, but it's kind of shelved. It comes down in these massive steps. So this guy is just kind of over the brow of a mound of pebbles, working perhaps on, you know, a chain or something, which is, or a rope attached to one of the boats. We don't know. And then also, you often get swimmers who have these little flotation devices. So the little red bit here is the flotation device, and then the black silhouette, that's the arm of somebody doing the front crawl coming out over the top of their head. So they're swimming from left to right. And then I also sketched in a little belted galloway as well. So I had that line drawing done, and I was about to paint it, but then we decided to go and sit near the water's edge on the pebbles. And that's when I ended up doing this painting here. And then a couple of days later, or a few weeks later, I can't remember, we went to a different part of Budley, sat on the beach. But as when I took my pad out, I discovered the line drawing for this painting, and I thought, okay, cool, I've got to paint it now. That's great. So I just added a light blue wash, fading to almost white for the sky, some slightly darker blue textural brushwork for the sea. And then I'm particularly happy with the foreground. What I did was, the pebbles at Budley are multicolored. So I picked out a couple of colors that I saw in the pebbles, and I intermingled the washes there, but kept the wash super clean. And then once that was dry, colored in just a few of the pebbles. Also added some color to this foreground boat. And then I just feel I've captured a certain lightness of touch with this painting. When you first look at it, there's almost nothing there really. But I would like to think I've captured a sense of space, and it's just a seascape on a quiet day at the beach. But then there's a belted galloway walking along. So I don't know, it just brings a smile to my face. Notice the mast here, and I don't even know what this kind of diamond shaped thing is, but I copied it fairly accurately in terms of the drawing. But I decided just not to even color those in and just leave the painting as it is. I'm quite happy with that one. It's just got a peaceful air to it, I think.